Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Anonymous Investors Podcast. I am your host, Bozo Man. And as always, I am visited by my co-host, God. What up, God? How you doing
You,
today
you
on a
know what you
fine
sounded
Monday
like right there? You
afternoon?
you sounded like the guy, Strongman Personal Finance. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Strongman Personal Finance? Who the fuck is that?
He's just this creepo. He just makes fun of other finance YouTubers, and he just makes like weird animal sounds and everything. And just,
Okay, I gotta look that guy up. Next time we record, I'll be sure to look that guy up. But there's a lot of weird shit going on in the world, a lot of cool stuff going on in the world too. We've got a lot of interesting topics to talk about today. Stick along for the ride. You're gonna enjoy it. We got some great stuff coming up. One of the big things that happened recently, I don't know if you got any gamers out here, but Stardew Valley hit 20 million units sold. Can you believe it? Now, God, I don't know if you know about this, but Stardew Valley is such an interesting story and like the creation of it. Like I have to bring this up. So it's a game that I played, and it's a game that a lot of people don't understand like what went into it. So it was created by one fucking guy. One guy made the game, and it doesn't look like a very detailed game, like when you look at it graphically, but it's very detailed. So it was created by a developer who goes by the name of Concerned Ape. That's like his online alias. And his real name, and we're not doxing him, his real name's out there. You could, I mean, if you look up Concerned Ape, like he's public. His real name is Eric Barone. And in 2011, he graduated with a degree in computer science from the University of Tacoma, Washington. And during that time, he found that it was difficult to find a job, right? So he literally took like whatever job he could get, and from there he used all of his free time and dedicated it towards like building a game because he got into like designing video games, and he didn't want to work in that industry, but he wanted to do that on the side for fun, right? So over the next 4 years he made a game, and the game was Stardew Valley. And the reason why I bring this up is that he had no help whatsoever. He taught himself how to do everything. He did all of the coding himself. He did all the branding. He did all the graphical design, level design. Um, the game is mostly like a farming simulator. He did all the farming mechanics. There's like combat mechanics in the game when you go cave dwelling. Um, then there's like interaction with the villagers and stuff in the town. Like this guy did everything himself, and he literally dedicated like 12 to 14 hours a day for 4 years every single day, like to make this game, right? And then he finally released it, and within the first 2 weeks, they sold 500,000 units, and he sold the game at like $14 a pop. It was like 14.99. So his share on like all these video game marketplaces like Steam, the Xbox store, PlayStation store, Nintendo store, like all these marketplaces, he basically became a millionaire like overnight once it started selling, right? And now he just sold 20 million units, and it's just remarkable because his team for like updating the game, it's himself and like two other people, and that's it. So in terms of smaller titles like video games and stuff like that have a small development team, they're called indie games. So it's literally the most successful, highest grossing like indie game of all time. And this guy is he sold 20 million units at like $15 a pop. So do the math on the gross on that. Like the guy's almost like, and he's in his 30s now, and he's working on other titles, but like he's basically set for life. Like he never has to work ever again, and the game's like ultra successful. And I love that game. Like it's fucking mad relaxing, and it's just a good way to like wind down for like an hour or whatever before you go to bed, or like if you just have like some downtime and you're not really working on anything, it's just like a fun game to just pop on. And it kind of reminds me of Animal Crossing, but it's like way more detailed and there's like actual like combat mechanics. But I figured I should bring that up because I think it's an important story about how you could overcome the odds if you like put your head down and just grind something out, especially if it's something you're really interested in. And like this guy literally had no money. He was working part time. He was living with his girlfriend, and like she was paying most of the bills and stuff like that, and he just dedicated all of his time to like making a game. Now that's not to say that that'll work out for everyone, but like he had an idea of what the end goal would be. He wanted to make it, and he didn't make excuses, and he worked 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week to get to that point. So, I think a lot of people, they just look to make excuses, or really what we're going to talk about later on in this episode is like people will look for the easy way out. And as we know, there are no shortcuts to paths in life that are worth going down. And I think that that's an important juxtaposition, which is why I bring this up as the first topic. But what do you think about that? Like, just kind of this guy in general, like Eric, going out and creating his own game, building it out, doing everything himself. He literally recorded the music for the fucking game too. That's what's
He had
crazy.
no employees or nothing.
No employees, nothing. 4 years, just him. Recorded the music, did level design, graphics, every sort of mechanic in the game. Just him. Development team of 1. 4 years, boom, makes a game that grosses $300 million.
Is this the game that like Kim Kardashian? You know how she sells like the clothing and stuff like that. Is this like that kind of game?
No, it's not like a mobile game. What it is, you could look it up. So it's basically it's on mobile too. It's called Stardew Valley. It's when you look at it, you're like, okay, what the fuck is this? It's like Farmville meets like Animal Crossing. It's basically how I would describe it. Like there's a monetary system in the game, and you're a farmer, and the whole premise of the game is this. I'll read the background on it, in case anyone else is curious. So it's a very complicated game, but so I'll read it to you. Stardew Valley is an open-ended country life RPG, and the story goes as this. You've inherited your grandfather's old farm plot in Stardew Valley, armed with the hand-me-down tools and a few coins. You set out to begin your new life. Can you learn to live off the land and turn these overgrown fields into a thriving home? It won't be easy. Ever since Georgia Corporation moved to town, the old ways of life have all but disappeared. The community center, once the town's most vibrant hub of activity, now lies in shambles. But the valley seems full of opportunity. With little dedication, you might just be the one to restore Stardew Valley to greatness. So it's about like a small town, and basically like an Amazon-like corporation moves in, and you can either help like restore the town to like, being lively, and you do that by restoring the community center, by completing, different tasks in the game to do that. Like you have to catch a certain number of fish, or like you have to catch like different varieties of fish. And, the main aspect of the game is really farming, because you inherit like your grandpa's like farm, right? So you plant like different crops. So the game is cool because there's actually like an internal clock. So it'll go through like all the different seasons, and then there's 28 days in each season, where basically like there's winter, spring, summer, fall, and like different crops grow in like different climates. So there aren't anything that like grows in the winter, obviously, because it's too cold. But you get to do like other things. You get to go fishing, and then like you interact with like the villagers in the game, and like all of them are like unique and stuff like that. So it's actually a really intricate game. But this guy literally created everything himself. Everything, including the music. Like I think the soundtrack, I don't know the exact number, but I think there might be like 20 or 30 songs on the soundtrack. He literally recorded everything himself. Like, how crazy is that?
Well, that's like an inspiration story that if you put your mind to something, that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. That's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad I brought that up, because I know a lot of people listening to this, they love that game.
And this guy has like a merch line now with the game too, I saw.
Yeah, and he's launching like guides, and he's really smart about it too. He's licensing out. So his main thing now is like he finished the game, and now he's kind of hands off, right? So like he has a team of devs that like when people have any bugs or problems with the game, they report it to the devs that he hired, the 2 guys that work for him, and they fix all the glitches and any problems with it. And he just kind of manages them and makes sure that they do that. But in the meantime, now because he's built his own IP, intellectual property, for those of you who don't know, now that he built his own IP, he's like licensing it out. So now he has merchandise coming out, like t-shirts, stuff like that. And then now he even has like a Stardew Valley board game coming out. So he's doing the right thing. He's just licensing onto everything. It's going to be a big title. And another thing too, I bring this up, another really important reason is that the game is selling the game came out 6 years ago, and it's selling at a faster rate today than ever before in terms of daily sales. So the game's exploding even more in popularity, and now they added wasn't as like recent, but they kind of like updated their multiplayer iteration. So now you're going to be able to play the game with friends. So that's a huge thing. So as it becomes more and more available on like every console, you're going to be able to play with your friends too, which is big. So like you and your friends could have a fucking farm and like run it and shit. And it's just a fun fucking game. Like you don't have to you don't even have to go to the mines in the game. Like if you make your guy and you make like a farmer and you just fucking focus on maxing out like the farm, you could literally make enough money to like pay to like bypass all the mines and all like the combat if you like were bothered by it, or like the actual challenging aspects of the game. Like you could literally just be like, fuck it, I don't care, and then just not do that. It's really cool. It's a good game. Or you could just say like fuck the farm and literally just wake up every day in the game and then just hang out with the like interact with the villagers and like do quests and shit like that. Like you don't even have to like do anything in the game. It's pretty cool. Or if you just want to go fishing and like that's how your guy makes money, you could literally just go fishing. You don't even have to have a farm. Like you could be like fuck the farm and just go fishing. Like it's a cool game. It's dope. It's dope. I highly recommend it. There's not really a lot of thought or anything that goes into it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like I said, like Animal Crossing, where it's just like, you just kind of like meander around. There's like no point. But it's not a game you play for like hours upon hours on end. It's a game you kind of play for like, maybe like at most like an hour a day, and you kind of wind down a little. Like that's how I treat it anyway. So my main juxtaposition here is that in this episode, more specifically, we're going to talk about people who they didn't do that, right? They went the path that is the easiest way out, and they went the path that was just a shortcut. And as the old cliche saying goes, there are no shortcuts to paths worth traveling down in life.
All right, so basically, we got this guy, Henry Blodgett, scumbag Henry Blodgett, right? Who basically was he's the CEO. He's like a prominent insider, prominent owner of Business Insider, and he recently was publishing fake articles on Elon Musk and Dave Portnoy in order to basically let's give like a roundabout history of him and what he did. In 1980s, he would publish these fake research reports, and eventually he got barred from the securities industry, and he basically was permanently banned from the securities industry and paid a $2 million fine plus a $2 million disgorgement for committing insider trading. That's why they call it Business Insider, by the way, because it's business insider trading. And he recently published these reports on Elon Musk. He said that Elon Musk was paid a flight attendant on a SpaceX flight. He basically paid her $250,000 for a silence because he exposed himself to her. And this is just completely false. Elon Musk disputed the claims. He even said, if it's true, right? How about you give a identifying remark in the article, any kind of tattoos, any kind of scars, etc. Business Insider refused to respond to his comment about if they had any proof of an identifying scar or identifying tattoo. They couldn't answer his question. And they're known for doing this. They're known for basically trying to ruin people's careers and then putting the article behind paywall so that they can earn revenue. And then basically they trade on that revenue and they sell it to these hedge funds and these other financial firms to basically make money. They're the biggest scam artists in the game. And they basically sell their content to financial analysts before they release it. And this guy basically belongs in jail for what he did. And you see this uptick in people attacking Elon Musk recently after he declared on his Twitter that he's no longer a Democrat and that he's going to be voting Republican because the Democrat Party is not the party of free speech anymore, and that the Democrat Party has gone too far left. And the day after he says that, you see people attacking him, going after him, basically trying to ruin his career. They took him out of the ESG index, which is the environmental social governance index. They took him out of that. I don't know how you could take Tesla out of an environmental index. They're one of the most, they're the company doing the most for the environment. So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Then they basically, Moody's, they downgraded his credit rating. Meanwhile, he has a higher cash ratio, less debt than Apple, Microsoft, etc. And there was this list published on Twitter of all these prominent companies, and if you take like all these ratios, cash to debt, EBITDA, earnings, etc., Tesla is leading in all the categories, in all the earnings categories. Meanwhile, all of the companies had a AAA rating from Moody's, and basically Tesla has a B rating. They were just downgraded. So I don't know how that makes any sense whatsoever. They basically have the best ratings and the best cash positions in every regard and the best profitability ratios. Meanwhile, they're being downgraded by Moody's. So that proves to you that Moody's is a fraudulent institution. They don't care about protecting investors. They don't care about the truth. They basically just do what they want. And then if you look at the ESG index, going back to that, you have fucking oil companies in the index like Exxon and Chevron. How could they be in the index and be for the environment? Meanwhile, Tesla's not for the environment. So you got a lot of shady stuff going on. And I think this has to do with the fact that he also recently on his Twitter page exposed Hillary Clinton for the Steele dossier. So all of this is coming out at the same time that he exposed Hillary Clinton, and that he basically said that he's not a Democrat anymore, that he's Republican. So I think this is a hit piece narrative put out by the media to try and get people to go against him. And you got all these idiots on Twitter. They have half a brain. Their brain is the size of a peanut. They can't put two and two together. They go, Elon Musk, oh, he paid her. He paid her. Yeah, because his time is valuable. He doesn't have time to go to court and dispute the case. He'd rather just pay her and say, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I find it interesting that people don't understand the fact that Tesla is doing more for the environment than any other company, right? Like when you think about what was Tesla's goal, right? And even SpaceX, like Elon Musk has come out publicly and he basically said like Tesla and the plans there and the push towards renewables and using electric cars and sort of lowering our carbon footprint. He's like, that's plan A. And then he's like, SpaceX is basically like the doomsday, like fail-safe fucking plan, which is pretty much in that trajectory, he's like, okay, well, if we like fuck the earth up entirely, like now we have to find a new planet to live on. And it's just crazy because they really are doing the most for the environment. Like when you think about what Apple does and you think about some of the minerals, right, and materials used in creating an iPhone, they don't exactly like, source these materials from not only ethical places, but a lot of these factories and pollutants are contributed into the atmosphere. And Tesla, how interesting is it, right? Like, why wouldn't Tesla be removed from this ESG ranking? 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? What was different at that point? Was there anything different materially about Tesla? I don't think so, right? Like, what changed within the last month or two with Tesla in terms of how they source materials, the contributions they're making in terms of shifting society towards electric cars, maybe towards more renewables, towards solar energy and different types of alternative energy? Like, they really didn't do anything different. The only thing that changed is that Elon Musk says he is not a Democrat, and he also says that he has many enemies that he's created that are establishment Democrats, right? And that's not to say that being Republican in itself is like a virtuous thing, because it's not. Because in reality, both parties, and really the majority of people aligned with both parties, are what I like to call shitheads. And truth be told, you really don't want any part of it. I think politics is a really dirty game, but it just seems that one party in particular is a lot more worse than the other. That's not to say that the other party is bad or that much better by any stretch of the imagination. It's really just like there's just a lot of trouble afoot, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on, and particularly like in the whole Elon Musk case, for him settling, I don't think that implies that he's guilty of anything. And truth be told, do we even know that it's like a legitimate thing that happened? Like, did he acknowledge that was like a real incident or anything? Like, I don't even know.
No, he said that this person was a far left activist, and that he knows who the person is, and they're far left activist, and then he denies it fully, and that it never happened, and that they emailed him at 11:59, and then they published the article at 12 o'clock, so that he didn't have any time to explain the story. They had already had the article in place, and they wouldn't let him explain about what happened and give his side of the story. And the thing you mentioned before about the ESG index, like, people might say like, oh, who gives a fuck what these people say? They took them out of ESG and who cares? But that's a big deal, because you have companies like BlackRock and all of these institutions. And if you're not a part of the ESG index, and if you don't comply and have a certain grade on the ESG index, like they don't invest in your company. So you have massive capital outflows from your company by being taken off of the ESG index.
Yeah, ESG is one of those weird new metrics that a lot of people are using to kind of, gauge whether or not they should invest in something. And it seems to be more of environmentally conscious investors, or, more socially conscious investors too. So it seems to me that that's going to be a big metric at some point in the future, but obviously not really as important as like fundamentals and like overall growth of a company and profitability. Like those are obviously the most important metrics. And it just seems like people are a lot of like really casual people are kind of putting too much stock into like ESG and stuff like that. But it's interesting though. Elon Musk has a lot of positions within crypto too. He's very involved in the crypto community, and more recently, we just witnessed the implosion of an algorithmic stablecoin. For those of you who don't know, and that is, this one in particular goes by the name of Terra Luna. So Terra Luna was created by Do Kwon. He's a South Korean programmer and crypto enthusiast, I guess you can call him. And this whole thing fucking imploded. And there's been a lot of trouble afoot with that. More specifically, now I bring him up in this scam case because this guy's a complete fucking bozo. And I'll tell you why. He's a complete bozo because he was on Twitter. You can go back on his Twitter. He's so arrogant. He says that everyone who criticizes him is poor. And he goes, I don't entertain the poor. And he says, if you're poor, I don't talk to you. That's it. He goes, you're a broke boy. And then he goes, I'll see if I can find a tweet that he directly made. It was like so fucking interesting. And people started replying to his old tweets. And trust me, I'm going to get to the important point of this, folks. He replied, I don't debate the poor on Twitter. And sorry, I don't have any change on me for her at the moment. And someone replies and they get a bunch of retweets. And they say, ever hear that saying, be nice to people on the way up because you're likely to meet them on the way down? Well, you're no longer on the way up, my friend. And that perfectly summarizes everything. But the reason why we bring him up is that there was video footage that came out in a recent CoffeeZilla video. I don't know if you guys saw this, but CoffeeZilla is great. We love him. He exposes all the fucking fraudsters and all the fucking shady assholes in the finance industry. That ruined the, reputation of us like very well respected and high esteemed professionals. And we hate these fucking fraud fuckers, and I really hate them with all my heart. But so the whole thing with Luna is that he's at this Do Kwon, he's at this fucking convention, right? And he's sitting there, and I don't know if he knew he was on camera or whatever. He's got a beer in front of him, thinks he's a big shot. Oh yeah, I got my beer in front of me. This guy's fucking worshiping me, Maybe he's thinking the guy's like jerking him off, kind of. So he comes out and he says basically, just flat out, like plain English, you could pull it up. He got caught in 4K. 4K, baby. They caught him in 4K. He says that Luna has a kill switch, which would enable it to sell off all of the assets and close up shop and just for everyone involved with the project to just disappear. Now, let me pose this question. First of all, how fucking stupid are you to say this while you're on camera, even if you're drinking, whatever, you're on camera. Why would you say that? You get nothing out of saying that, and that's a major fucking red flag. If a company told me, oh well, we have a way to like take all the assets and shut down in case something bad happens, you know what I'm doing? Literally the day I hear that and the day I find out about that, I am selling everything off. Because that guy is a shithead and he's not responsible and he shouldn't be in charge of the project. Truth be told.
Well, here's the thing about it. This is like I actually think he's pretty intelligent the way he set up this scam. So if it's just some back history on like what Terra Luna is, it's like it's this like kind of like algorithmic stablecoin, and he backed the algorithmic stablecoin with Bitcoin reserves. So by backing it with Bitcoin reserves, you had all the Bitcoiners basically they can't go against you because you have all these reserves and you could sell the reserves off at any minute. So you kind of holding the Bitcoin community kind of hostage. They don't want Terra Luna, even though they know Terra Luna is a scam. They can't go against it or basically discredit it because then the Bitcoin would be forced to sell off, and that would tank Bitcoin in their investment. So he was smart in the way he set up as having Bitcoin as a reserve in his coin. And so the way it works is like you have these two coins, UST and Terra Luna. They're kind of connected. They're like sister coins. And in order to get a Luna coin or a Terra Luna, you have to burn one or the other, and you could swap it. And the problem with that is once you create an enormous amount of sell pressure on one of the coins, you go into like a death spiral. And once you go into the death spiral and there's too much pressure on the coin, you lose the peg. And then once you lose the peg, it's not stable anymore. And then once you have no stability, like nobody has faith in your stable coin. If you have no stability in a stable coin, your stable coin is basically useless. So there was probably some sort of collective group kind of trying to take him down. And what you said earlier about how rich people, you don't want to talk to the poor people and this and that. I wouldn't be surprised if some collective group basically had enough of his shit, his arrogance and stuff like that, and said, we're going to take this motherfucker down. And they basically just destroyed him.
I got to be honest with you. I 100% agree with you in that situation, because this is how fucked up this guy was, right? I think he might have been on drugs. And I'm not looking to rock the boat. I'm not looking to be provocative, but I swear, I think this guy was on drugs. Like, you know how people, I don't know if you've ever seen people like this in your lives, but you see people, they get all like coked out and they think they're untouchable and shit like that. I think he might have been, his money might have been going up his nose. I'll put it that way. But because he was on Twitter and like the way he was talking to people was like so out of line. Like, someone tweeted to him like a year ago, and they said that a George Soros type of attack could happen to Terra Luna, and the guy was explaining how it could be done, and Do Kwon's only response was like, yo, you're poor, like, you're never going to be able to do this, like, I don't even know why you're looking into this, like, you're never going to be anything in life. Like, that's basically what he said to the guy in a nutshell. And then another guy said to him, one of the big crypto whales tweeted to him and said something to the effect of like, yo, I'll bet you $100,000 like your coin will be dead in a year. And this is like a big whale in the crypto community, right? So Do Kwon was like, all right, bet, like I'll take you up on that, right? Another guy chimes in and goes, oh, and Do Kwon goes, oh, $100,000, that's nothing. I don't care. Like, whatever, right? Another guy jumps in and goes, let's do $1 million. He says, okay, $1 million, I'll do that. Third guy chimes in and goes, let's do 10 million. He goes, I'll put $10 million on the line right now that your coin won't be here. And Do Kwon didn't respond. You know why? Because he doesn't have 10 million fucking dollars. He's a broke boy compared to this guy. So he's calling everyone else poor, but relatively speaking, he's poor compared to the motherfucker that was about to put up 10 million. Now, if you ask me, these are crypto whales. These are guys that are loaded, that have stupid amounts of money. But guess what? Is it possible that they're also institutional investors or connected to institutional investors? Very likely. Once you have that level of money, right? Once you're considered high net worth in that 10 million range or ultra high net worth in that 50 million range, the circles get smaller and smaller and everyone knows each other. So if they go, hey, you know what? This guy's a fucking shithead. Fuck him. And what they did, and this is my theory, there's really two outcomes here. Either Do Kwon hit the kill switch and cashed out and fucked everyone over.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
Which is it's possible, but I would say it's not probable. Or option two is the Soros style bank run happened where someone borrowed $3 billion of Bitcoin and they sold it against Terra Luna and just killed the reserves of Terra Luna.
Peter Griffin? You think it was Peter Griffin?
Peter Griffin. Oh, Ken Griffin. Is that who you mean? Ken Griffin from Citadel?
Yeah. No, not Ken Griffin. Peter Griffin.
A lot of people were saying that. I'll see if I could pull up that thread. Hang on. In the meantime, you should educate the people about why they think it's Citadel. I'll see if I can pull up the thread that explains it in the meantime.
Basically, if you look at the blockchain, you see basically $300 million of USD. Of Terra Luna and USD being sold off in an instant. And there's like speculation that it was either BlackRock or Citadel and Ken Griffin. Which, if you look at like every investor in this year, and basically every investor's down. The only two investors that are up this year, or the only three investors that are up this year: Steve Cohen, Ken Griffin, and BlackRock. The only three people that are up in this year. Well, meanwhile, everyone's down like 25-30%, and it's probably because they're in the crypto space and they're pulling some stuff over the walls over other people. And they're probably the only ones sophisticated enough to pull something like this. If you put too much sell pressure on a coin in an instant, there's not going to be enough liquidity. You're going to cause the coin to collapse. And you see that happen with Terra Luna. So basically, my word of advice is, right, if you look at the history of stablecoins, every single algorithmic stablecoin has failed. There's not a single algorithmic stablecoin that has been successful. So why even invest in them? There's basically two kinds of stablecoins. You have algorithmic stablecoins and collateralized stablecoins. You should only invest in collateralized stablecoins where for each $1 in the stablecoin, there's $1 in U.S. reserves or yens or Swiss dollars, whatever country you're from. So, and you have to basically make sure that the collateral is audited by a third party, such as Certic or another third party firm. And some good stable coins that you could invest in are Gemini coin and USDC. Anything with like Luna or Moon, anything with Moon or rocket ship and everything like that, you could know it's a scam. Your portfolio is not going to the moon. Let's go to the moon. No, anything with Moon, Luna, rocket ship, any kind of profane language, anything with like penis or anything like that, it's most likely a scam. Just look at the name of the coin, right? And if it's something that's used to draw up social sentiment or something that's used to draw up hype and stuff like that, then it's most likely a scam, and there's no underlying fundamentals to the protocol.
All right, so I found the thread. It was actually on 4chan. I don't recommend anyone go on 4chan because it's just like pure degeneracy, and it's just people posting like a lot of anti-Semitic and like fucked up shit on there. So we don't endorse anything with 4chan, but this is where the thread was originally posted, and then it was reposted onto Twitter and Reddit. I couldn't find the repostings of it, so I was like, all right, I'll fucking whatever. I'll go into the lion's den. I'll go into the pit of hell, and I'll go on 4chan. But so on 4chan, here's the main comment, the thread that went kind of viral here. So it says, Terra Luna attack explained. This is all conspiracy theory, of course. We don't, these are all allegations. We're not saying that Gemini was involved, BlackRock was involved, or Citadel was involved. This is all just speculation, and it's all allegations. So this is all for entertainment purposes only, of course. So here we go. Terra Luna attack explained. BlackRock and Citadel borrowed 100,000 Bitcoin from Gemini, and then they say it appears in their loan book, in Gemini's loan book. They swapped 25K of that Bitcoin into UST. This was all done quietly in anticipation of the attack. When the time was right, they called up Do Kwon at Terra Foundation, and they said they wanted to sell a lot of Bitcoin for UST. As it was a large trade, they told him they didn't want to move the market and asked if they would like their if he would like to buy their large block of Bitcoin at a discount for UST. Do Kwon took the bait. He gave them a huge chunk of UST, thus lowering the UST liquidity significantly. At that point, BlackRock and Citadel dumped all of the Bitcoin in UST, causing massive slippage and triggering a cascade of forced selling in both assets. The real problem was Anchor, which holds a lot of Luna, was a Ponzi scheme. And Anchor, for those of you who don't know, they offered 20% staking APY. And this crash would trigger more withdrawals than Anchor can repay. These forced withdrawals with selling would trigger a massive sell-off in Luna, thus further breaking the dollar peg and wrecking the market further. BlackRock and Citadel can now buy back the Bitcoin cheaply to repay the loan and pocket the difference. Meanwhile, billions of longs in Bitcoin VARs were wiped out. And this guy goes on to say this was pure market manipulation. Now, I think it's also worth noting, I mean, this is all conspiracy, but it is worth noting that BlackRock is the main power broker behind Circle. And Circle created the centralized seizable USDC stablecoin. So it's very interesting. So BlackRock has an interest in stablecoins, and people are alleging that they were tied into the collapse of Terra Luna. So who knows if there's any validity to that? But I mean, BlackRock and Citadel, you're talking about two institutions that they don't give a flying fuck about helping anyone, and they really don't give a flying fuck about screwing people over. So very interesting shit, you know?
What were you saying about Anchor? Anchor is a Ponzi scheme, the lending
Yes.
protocol.
Yes.
Wow,
Absolutely.
that's
I mean,
surprising.
20% APY. Do you think it's a Ponzi scheme?
So, what do you think about like compound finance and those other ones, those other
Um,
DeFi lending platforms?
I think that yield farming is a Ponzi scheme. I do. I think that all yield farming is a complete Ponzi scheme. I saw Sam Bankman-Fried actually. This is something worth exploring maybe for next week. But Sam Bankman-Fried, I know you're big on him. You like him, but
Yeah,
he did an
he's going to be the
interview.
richest man in the world. I'm making that prediction right now, and it will come true.
He did an interview with someone. Fuck, I forgot the guy's name, but he did an interview with someone from Bloomberg, right? And he was and the guy was asking him about yield farming, and he just straight up describes yield farming, but the way he describes it is like literally textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. So much so that like the interviewers, there were a few interviewers, I think it was like two or three, but the main interviewers and everyone else, they just started laughing. They literally just started laughing in the middle of the interview because Sam Bankman-Fried described yield farming and like he
Did he
would
mean to describe it as a Ponzi scheme, or was
literally
he just like,
literally described it as a Ponzi scheme. Literally a Ponzi scheme. He goes, okay, let's say you have a box, right? And he's like, the box has no intrinsic value whatsoever. And he's like, people put, and the box somehow comes up with, I'm going to butcher his analogy, right? But he goes, let's say you have a box. The box does nothing. It has no intrinsic value, but it has a $10 million valuation. He's like, for it to get to like $1 billion valuation, he's like, you just need to figure out a way to sell more people on the box. And like, and he's like, and then the original people in on the box, like they end up selling off. Like he literally, like, I have to see if I can find this clip and
well, he
send it
does a
to you
lot of yield
offline.
farming, so I guess he just gets in early. He
So
knows it, and he
he
knows the
doesn't
Ponzi scheme, and he
see
just
the
says, "I'm going
thing.
to get out early."
The thing with him is that he's smart because he said all these exchanges suck ass. I'll make a good exchange, right? So his main business model is like he's in the exchange business. He's not a yield farm guy. And if you actually look at what
No,
he
but
said
part of
publicly,
FTX is yield
if you
farming.
look at what he said publicly about crypto and things pertaining to crypto, he says a lot of shit that you kind of look at and you're like, oh, he really doesn't like believe that much in like the industry. Like he's there to fucking make his spread on trades and then that's it. Like he doesn't give a fuck. Like I don't even think he owns that much Bitcoin or that much crypto personally, like at all. Like I know he
Well,
donates half his money or
I think he's
whatever,
just an
but
arbitrage guy.
yeah.
He
Yeah,
just
he's
like
just
he
talking in
basically
on spreads. He
arbitrages
doesn't
between different platforms,
yeah,
and then he just cashes out. I don't think he might not even hold it long term.
I don't think
Just
he
takes the
I gotta be
arbitrage.
honest with you, I don't even think he holds any crypto like in his personal portfolio. Like I would not be surprised if it was zero. I think that
Oh, I
he
don't know about
just
that. I mean, you got to have some. You got to have some for your platform in order to sell to other people. You can't just hold nothing.
well, I'm
If
saying
you're
him
the owner,
personally. I'm saying him personally,
oh,
not the company. Not the company, obviously. Hello. The company would be out of business tomorrow. Don't they have like 100 to 1 leverage like the assholes on Binance? So yeah, they fucking, they'd be out of business tomorrow. What if the 100 to 1 leverage goes the opposite way and the fucking retail bag holder ends up making money,
oh yeah. Look at this. I just pulled up an article on what you said. Sam Bankman-Fried on
Yes. Read that.
decentralized finance. He calls it Ponzi-nomics.
Yeah, you should read that. There's a good video on that. Another CoffeeZilla video. CoffeeZilla is just like, what the fuck is this? We would pull it up here, but we've had major audio scuffs with YouTube videos lately, folks. We're working on fixing that, but some of this stuff you can look up. Just look up CoffeeZilla, Sam Bankman-Fried Ponzi scheme. It'll come up. The other thing you should look up is CoffeeZilla Luna crash, and he's got like a whole series on it. He's got like 3 videos covering the whole debacle and everything that's followed suit. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that we could talk about in the world of scams. So what was this Hybe thing that you were telling me about? You mentioned briefly it was with influencers offline, but I was just like, what the fuck is that shit? And I know there's a lot of people that want to know, and people, you're telling me offline that it's an alleged scam, but I've never heard of it. So this is something that you could educate me and the people on. What's going on with that?
Okay, so Hybe, right? It's basically this South Korean company, right? And they have these mystery boxes, right? So they'll have like a Supreme mystery box, a Louis Vuitton mystery box, a iPhone mystery box, a computer mystery box, all these different a Birkin mystery box, all these different kinds of mystery boxes, right? So you put money into the account, right? Say whatever you want to put in, $100, $500, $1,000. The boxes, they vary in price. It might cost $20 for a box, $500 for a box, $100 for a box, depending on the box and what you can get. Basically, the prices vary. So then what they did after they created these mystery boxes, they hired these influencers such as like PrettyBoyFredo and a couple of other influencers. They promote it. They
Rice Gum
promote
and
this.
Jake Paul, right?
I'm not sure if Rice Gum and Jake Paul did it, but
They got in trouble,
they,
right? Back in the day for the mystery boxes. That was like the OG kind of mystery box scam, I think, right?
oh, but this is like a recent company. I don't know if they're promoting
Oh,
this
okay.
one. They might have done it back in the day, but I don't know if they're promoting Hy-Vee or not. But basically, yeah, they hire these people to promote it. And if you look at Pretty Boy Fredo in his videos, right, you see two mouse clickers when he's opening the mystery box. So obviously it's a pre-recorded video, and then he's making these obviously fake reactions where he's like opening his mouth wide and he's doing like these fake surprise reactions. He's jumping into a pool like he wins these big prizes. And then you go to the website and you look at the odds, and you basically lose every time. Like the odds are like so bad, like it's like 1,000 times worse than like a slot machine in a casino. Like you're pretty much guaranteed to lose all your money. Like you put in $1,000, you probably lose like 95% of it. The odds are, so you get back like $50.
Yeah, there was a situation back in the day where Jake Paul got in trouble for that and Rice Gum got in trouble for that. But Rice Gum was the one who really got in trouble for that because at that point his channel was like on a downward spiral, like at least his main channel. Just due to not uploading and like the content he was uploading was horrible and no one found it interesting anymore. He got boring and whatever. He just didn't try anymore. But like at that point, I think he got paid like $300,000 or $400,000 for that one video alone. And it was like exactly what you described. I would not be surprised if it was like the same company. Basically, you'd put money into this website, and he did it like the way he recorded the video was like it was a pre-recorded video that he set up with a face cam, and he in the video put, or at least in the video, someone put money on the site, and it's like they open a Adidas box or whatever. So they put $50 in, they open an Adidas box, and then he pulls out like NMD like vapes or whatever, right? So he sells those at the time for like 1,000 or whatever, the quick sell value. Then he's like, "Oh, I'll buy the like Louis Vuitton one or whatever." And then he pulls like some fucking Louis Vuitton backpack or satchel or some shit, and he's like, "Yo, this is 10 grand," and then he fucking sells that shit. And then he, does another one and he wins. He spends like $1 on a box and he wins like $200 AirPods and shit. And he's like, "Yo, there's really no losing money in this thing, dude." And one of the prizes that they have on there, which this is like the dead giveaway, it's so fake. One of the prizes that you could win on there was like a Bel Air mansion worth like $100 million. Like, really? Do you really think you're gonna win like a Bel Air mansion? Like, what the fuck? And it was like clearly designed to like sell gambling to kids, with just like really shit odds, obviously, and like you really don't win anything. Like the prizes aren't real, and you never win. So like you could put like 10 grand on that shit, and you'd never win because it's not like it's not a regulatory like gambling entity. They don't have like a gaming license or whatever. Like it's just a straight up website that was created as like a total scam just to rip people off. Like it's not a legitimate website. I wouldn't be surprised if like the website was created and like hosted in some sketchy ass like offshore country that like doesn't give a fuck. That's like well outside the jurisdiction and extradition laws of the United States or like any sort of major like player or major like Western power.
Well, it's in like Poland and South Korea. The thing is, right? They can't get in trouble because they publish the odds. They have a page where they publish the odds, and if you actually read, you could see that it's a scam. It would be like odds are 0.00005%. So they'll publish the odds. So that technically they're not really scamming you if you just like open your eyes and read things. Like they're telling you what they're doing, but the people are not educated enough to read and look at the total odds of what they're getting into and see that it's like a guaranteed loss.
Yeah,
So that's why I don't
people
think they get in trouble with the authorities because they're telling you the odds.
Yeah, people don't really read too much about that. Speaking of people getting in trouble with the authorities, I don't know if you heard of this guy. He was a big time scammer, and he got caught. And this was within the last 2 years. Is this guy Hushpuppi? You ever hear of this guy? Interesting story.
Never heard of him.
All right, this will be a good opportunity to explain to everyone, what happened with this guy. So, the stereotypical Nigerian scammer, Nigerian prince, right? You ever see those back in the day? That was a big scam that people would do. But this guy came up and he was a Nigerian scammer. And his scams got more like intricate, right? So he kind of posed and he was this guy who came up and he basically was like the Dan Bilzerian of like Nigeria. And what he did was like crazy. So he would like scam people, right? I'll get into the scam in a minute, but how they caught him is so amazing. So he kind of came up, right? He made all this money, and everyone from his town and from his country who knew him, they were like, "There's no way this guy made money legitimately, right?" Because he made it so quick, and everyone was like, "How the fuck did you make this money, right?" So he's like, "Oh, I got it. I got my money from real estate, right?" It's like, okay, valid, right? Like maybe the guy made a couple real estate deals, he flipped some, properties, whatever, made some money, and then he's like rolling the proceeds back into deals, right? Okay, that's a valid point. Like real estate, if you look at like the largest wealth creators, it's like real estate and stocks. Like that's like one and two, right? So, that's valid. Like that, okay, like that's kind of believable, even though it was like in too small of a window, right? Okay. So he says that that's the case. So he starts posting on Instagram and he's posting his lifestyle and like he's got all these crazy exotic cars. He's traveling everywhere. He's got a Rolls Royce that has like his Instagram handle like engraved into the door. It says Hush Puppy. He's wearing all Gucci shit, like he thinks he's a big shot. And he also called himself Hush Puppy as his Instagram name, and he called himself the billionaire Gucci Belezo, which is funny because he should be the billionaire Gucci Bozo because now he's in jail. But anyway, so from 2011 onward, he got kind of like started on social media and started posting on there. And it's unbelievable what happened. So what he did was, and we don't condone this type of behavior. We're only explaining this for entertainment purposes only. So what he did was like he would flex all his money, right? So I'll get into like how he did these scams and how he got caught. So how he did this scam is that he would send people like a phishing email, and that's phishing with a P with PH, not fishing like you cast a fucking line and you're like waiting to catch a fish, but you send someone like a phishing email. So he would send a phishing email to like an administrative assistant or whoever at like a big company, right? And his main point in doing that was to get them to click the link to then get access to their email and see everything coming in, right? Then what he would do is he would wait for an invoice to come in. And then from there, once an invoice would come in, he would create a fake invoice from that company that sent the invoice to the assistant. So let's say like you had a company, right? And let's say your company is God LLC, and I'm the administrative assistant of Jimbo LLC. So he would get into the Jimbo LLC administrative assistant email from me being an idiot and clicking the link. He would get in, and then what would happen is God LLC would send Jimbo LLC an invoice of $10 million, right? So then he would see the invoice come in, he would open it up, download it, copy it over, and then just change the banking information. And then for the email, he would make a new email from God LLC, but he would say like God LLC like period at gmail.com or whatever. So it looks like a legit email from God LLC. And then he would change the bank routing information and then the like the account numbers and shit like that. And he would say, "Oh, sorry, I made a mistake before. Like, here's the information." So you'll never believe what happened. This guy with his syndicate, they scammed $500 million out of corporations. Think about how fucking crazy that is. And it wasn't just him alone. He had like a team working for him. And here's how this fucking bozo got caught. First of all, he gets all this money. He gets it out of nowhere. And he starts flexing on social media, right? Big red flag. You don't do that. You don't flex on social media ever. Even if you earn your money legitimately, you never let everyone know that you're rich. You never do that. Because you know why? it breeds animosity because people look at it and they go, oh, this guy thinks he's better than everyone. Let's fuck him up. That's number one. People look to take you down like that because you become a blip on the radar and everyone starts talking about you. You know, real G's move in silence like lasagna. And it's true. So that's number one. Number two, they called him on the Instagram because for his birthday party, it was like his 37th birthday party or some shit. He has this crazy elaborate party in Abu Dhabi, right? And he has a live video feed where, you know, he's on IG Live and he's like, hey, it's my birthday, blah, 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 right? All the guys in the video, they're all known scammers that the feds were already investigating. So they go, we got him. We fucking got him. They go, every single guy that was in that live stream, that was in this dude's orbit, they can confirm he's in with the scam because every other guy in the room, they already have a file on and they know is a proven scammer. So now what happens? Boom. The UAE collaborates with, you know, the US and they fucking book this guy while he's on vacation for his birthday and they arrest everyone on the night of the guy's birthday, right? So here's what happens in the aftermath. So he had an apartment in the Palazzo Versace and it was raided, and they said him and 11 others were arrested in 6 simultaneous raids, and detectives seized more than 150 dirham, that's the currency in Abu Dhabi, and that's $40 million in cash, 13 luxury cars worth $7 million, 21 laptops, 47 smartphones, 15 memory storage devices, and 5 external hard drives, and 800,000 emails of potential victims alongside suitcases of cash. And the whole thing was that they were stealing money from people, and then they got caught trying to launder it. So in this situation where he had all this cash, he was divvying it out. I would think he was divvying it out to his business associates in a way to kind of launder the money and give it to them in cash and have them bring it back or whatever the case may be. And he was trying to launder the money. But the worst part is, like, this guy said he made his money in real estate. He never made one real estate transaction ever. Never made one. And all this information would be public, right? Like, you could see when someone buys and sells their home or buys and sells a property. You could see the entity that did that. That's all public records. So this guy's such a moron that he never made a real estate deal once. Not once. So how crazy is that, though? He literally got caught because he was flexing on Instagram.
Yeah, but that seems like an easy scam because if you just send an invoice to a corporation, say like a very cheap invoice, like $200, you think they're gonna spend time like doing a full blown investigation, or they're most likely just gonna pay? They're just gonna pay out $200. They're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck, you know, what bill is this? Where is this from? And they might do a little bit of due diligence, but they're not gonna run around in circles for basically, you know, a week trying to find out where the $200 came from. They're just gonna pay it and then they're gonna move on with the day. So like I feel like that's a pretty well thought out scam to hit corporations because, you know, they're more likely to pay you out because they don't want to investigate, like, you know, oh, where did we spend this money? There's a lot of like incoming bills that they have and a lot of incoming invoices, and you know, they might not double check each and every one and they might just pay it out.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of the phishing scam, right? Like when you think of else, it's like really not a complicated scam. It's just like someone
You might not even have to fish
someone,
though. To be honest, you could just send an email with an invoice and it probably would work sometimes.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did that too. But like the phishing emails, like you could literally send a phishing email to like, you know how ridiculously. I don't even want to get into this stuff because it's so shady and it's so grimy and disgusting. But like the phishing emails, like they would like. I've worked at places where I've gotten emails and I'm like, this is a fucking phishing email, and I delete it right away, right? Like, because I'm savvy and like we know the tech and we know like it's very easy to discern when it's like a fucking phishing email, right? But like the second you open that email, they have access to your fucking account. Like that's just what it is. So it's just people being careless at work and they're like, oh, it's a Monday morning at 9:00. I got an email, and then they fucking click it open and boom, that hacker or whoever's trying to, you know, criminal, they're in the person's email now. And that's
well, I mean, how does it even
problem.
happen? There's internal servers and there's external servers. They, you know, your email from the company should be on a separate server.
I totally agree. But some companies, like if the person isn't connected to a VPN or whatever the case may be, like another thing too is to consider this. Like a lot of people use their phones for work emails, right? But if their phone isn't properly set up, and let's say they're using Gmail or whatever account, if they get into the person's personal email, they can then use that to leverage their way into the work email if it's on the same device. See what I mean? So there's like different ways that people can manipulate and exploit different vulnerabilities, and like not even necessarily just software applications like you're talking about or server applications, but also hardware applications too. So
Well,
it
I mean,
depends.
that's the
It's
company
crazy.
being stupid. I don't know. The
Yeah.
company should have security procedures
But
in
but
place where
people,
they don't let you sign in on any other device
yeah,
except
but
when
yeah, so these guys, their main thing was like they would just create, they would take an invoice for a large amount of money and then just slightly alter it and make a fake one. And then
like
they
what are
would
these
route
people
the money to that account. And then I would assume that they would just
like
fucking take all the money out of the account and dip. Like, I don't
what are
understand.
these people doing? Going to a public library and signing in on a public computer? Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know like how they went about doing it, but they said 47 laptops. I'm sorry, 47 smartphones, 21 laptops. So they had burner phones and shit. So I can't imagine that they're. But like if the email's that much different looking, why would you be like, okay, let's send the money to them? And then like how does payroll clear that? Like I don't understand that. Like how many steps are there in a transaction where someone wires another person $10 million? Like I would imagine it's probably the administrative assistant gets invoice, reviews the invoice. So like that's one person. But then like what about payroll? Like payroll's all of a sudden not going to flag the fucking invoice. Like okay, all of a sudden the routing number is like completely fucking different, and the account number is completely fucking different than the one you have on file. Like how do you not flag that? I don't understand that. That's crazy to me. And all of a sudden, the person's hitting you up and they're like, hey, my information changed. Like, here's
Well,
what
the
it
thing
is
is that
now.
I
There's
don't
no
think they're
way.
doing 10 million at a time. I think the reason why the scam is probably so successful is that they're doing like two, three, four, $500, and that the company they just say like pass it through. It's not. It doesn't meet the threshold where they have to like put these checks into place, like these secondary checks.
That's a good point. If it's such a minute amount of money, like petty cash, basically, they're really not gonna fucking like $200. I don't think a company would think twice about that. They did say there were 800,000 emails, so that makes sense. 800,000 emails of potential victims alongside suitcases of cash. I mean, 800,000 emails, like that makes sense to me. But yeah, this guy literally got caught because he was flexing too hard on Instagram. How crazy is that? Literally has a birthday party, celebrates with his friends. All of his friends are guys that the feds know are known scammers. And then they go, that's all the proof we need. Now we know where he got his money. Boom, just raids them. And then that's it. And obviously he's there on the property and there's all this shit there, in their room and the cars and everything. And there's all this evidence that implicates all of them in the whole fraud. So it's fucking unbelievable. So now this guy's in U.S. prison, I think. They extradited him, obviously. And I don't think he'll ever get out.
I
I
think
don't
they
think
should send him to
he'll ever.
Guantanamo Bay.
You think they should send him to Gitmo?
Send him over there. I think he deserves to go there.
And it also came out that he came up with a fraudulent scheme to steal 124 million from a Barclays Premier League football club too, which is crazy. But yeah, he pled guilty and he tried to implicate some like deputy commissioner of police, and the guy denied it. But the U.S. court gave the FBI a warrant to arrest him, and then that was it. So,
Oh, the deputy commissioner got arrested.
um, it says on the 28th of July, 2021, Hushpuppi pled guilty to money laundering and also appointed a deputy commissioner of police as an accomplice in his $1.1 million scam. The following day, oh, okay, yeah, they fucking, he ratted on the police commissioner, and the police commissioner got booked. The following day, a U.S. court granted FBI a warrant to arrest the
Oh, no
commissioner.
wonder why he was able to get in. You have
Yeah.
these like he had an internal connection at the FBI that he can get into anybody's email.
Well, no, he pled guilty to money laundering, and then he ratted this guy out to the FBI.
But what was going on with this police guy that he ratted on?
He said the police guy was an accomplice in a scam. He ratted him out as an accomplice.
Oh.
And then the FBI, the day later, they like raided the guy, and then they fucking booked him. Wow. Interesting stuff. But if there's anything you learned today, boys and girls, don't flex on Instagram. Honestly, you're probably better off not using Instagram, just as a rule of thumb, regardless of whatever path you decide to go down in life. But all the scams we talked about today, these are all people who are down tremendously. Whether that be the guy criticizing Elon Musk, total asshole, total scammer, fucking fraud-ass motherfucker. Whether it be Kwon, down bad, calling people poor on Twitter. Whether it be the bozos behind Hybe, who, they're chasing a quick nickel instead of a slow quarter. Bozo move. Or the bozo hushpuppi with nearly 3 million followers on Instagram, who will probably sit in a prison for the next 20 to 25 years of his life, even if he cooperates, just because of the sheer amount of money he stole from people and, everything that came with that. So it's pretty incredible what happens. But, you eventually will be found, and you'll eventually pay the price for violating the law. And that's just what it is. And on that note,
what they say, Sally's got to pay the piper.
That's right. And on that note, thanks again for listening to the Anonymous Investors Podcast. I am Bozo Man. Bozo.
You better subscribe to this podcast, otherwise I'm gonna come to your fucking house, right? And you're gonna have fucking problems. Hit the subscribe button, you motherfuckers.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button. If you don't hit the subscribe button, you're a bozo, like Bozo Man, like myself. And I am joined by my co-host, God. God, share some words of wisdom with the people.
Subscribe to this motherfucking podcast, otherwise you're gonna have fucking problems with me. You will go to fucking hell if you don't subscribe to this podcast. Hit the thumbs up, hit the fucking bell. Let's go. Subscribe,
like, bell, dislike, unsub, subscribe, don't matter. We like the engagement.
If you dislike, right, you're going to hell. Hit the fucking like button.
If you dislike, by the way, people, this is just a PSA. If you want to see YouTube dislikes,
we don't care.
If you want to see YouTube dislikes, if you just go to the Chrome store, there's an app, and it's called it's like add back YouTube dislikes or some shit, and it like restores it. It's a Chrome extension, and it works on Brave too. So you guys should do that. So then you could dislike the videos, and then you see how many people dislike the video. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. We're running too long here.